was headed north into the Australian outback. I wasn't the first to have the idea. I was trying to arm myself with knowledge before I arrived. Wisdom I needed to survive whatever happened next. I didn't know what I was doing. Actually, that's not true. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was running away from myself, hoping to find myself. Maybe I could figure it out if I let the outback beat the app a bit.
The best days are all behind me. I walk straight out of my life. Set it on fire in the morning. Nothing's going to stop me now.
And that's about where the fun ended. Except I'd been given a second chance to start a new life in Australia. What I hadn't counted on was how alone that would make me feel. But as if the universe was going to let me enjoy that either. Not a chance. Can I help you?
Are you the English mustard thief?
I did not steal. What did that guy tell you?
He said to tell you that you left your bag in the restaurant car.
All right, well, thanks for letting me know.
So why does he call you that?
It's a long story.
It's a long train ride.
He wouldn't toast my bread and, well, started there.
You English are so funny. You have to have things your way.
Apparently not on the Gone train.
Maybe you need to lighten up a little bit.
You don't mess with a man's breakfast routine. On Mark, by the way.
Hi, Daniela. Pleased to meet you, Mark. Are you going to Darwin?
No, Catherine, I think.
You think? There's not much at Catherine, you know that, right?
Well, there's the Outback. I'll start there.
Okay, well, don't forget your bag out there, huh?
I'm sure you'll be along to let me know if I do.
Nice to meet you, Mark, who is English but not a mustard thief.
Nice to meet you too, Daniela. Okay, I'm just going to talk through what I did with that one, for those people that are interested. It was from Great Southern Land, which you can see in the background here, where I put it together with all the video clips and the storyboarding. Great Southern Land is a book I wrote, which made it actually quite difficult to put into video form. I quite quickly discovered, because there's a kind of ego issue you run into and an uncertainty about what works and what doesn't, and yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of parked it for now, so I won't be doing any more work on it. There's a lot of issues with it, but this was also the first one I did used LTX version 2 at the time in January, so this was done all in January, pretty much all of it. I have kind of revisited it just to fix up the middle reverie bit a bit, but as for, I tried changing all the people, and it's just a lot of work that I'm not willing to put into yet, because since it's a story quite important to me, I want to do it right. So I'll probably leave it till the tools are better and my use of the tools are better. But anyway, let me just talk through the 5 minutes quickly as I can, which is never very quickly, as we know, what I did and why. So yeah, this was a shot. It's an opening idea is just to show something that happens later and then come back to it. It's the wrong guy. This was actually done with Wanimate. And I kind of just chopped bits rather than show the whole thing as a kind of intro. I think they called it a cold open or something like that. Yeah, and then ChatGPT was pretty clear about the amount of time you need to give it before you have a text thing if you're changing the emotion, which I was. So, you know, you've got this introduction thing that we come back to later, not in this, but, you know, it's the crux of the story where I'm suffering in the outback. It's all about cycling across the outback, by the way, when I emigrated here to Australia. And then a quote I really liked, but it's only part of the quote. This is supposed to be Australia. When I was first using, you know, Quen and Critter and Z Image, I just couldn't get stuff very well done. So, you know, terrible blue-tongue lizard, but this also sets the scene and tells you where it is if you know what a blue-tongue lizard is. But you certainly know what a kangaroo is, but none of them actually walk like that. They're walking more like camels, which was quite amusing. Yeah, all stuff that everything needs fixing. The snake looked more like a cartoon out of Mowgli until I ran this through a WAN detailer. It was the first time I tried it, and it fixed the head up really well. The train was the wrong train. It's supposed to be the Garn, but it's very hard to swap that out. I'd probably have to manually change the front carriage. You can see all this blemishing here. I was testing new different models, and then all this, I call it blancmange effect, which LTX does early on. It seems to be much better now with LTX 2.3. I don't suffer it so much, but also the workflows are much better tweaked now. I love that shot. I also changed the music. I was trying to get, I really wanted to use, I'll pause that a second, I really wanted to use Silverchair. The whole journey for me was music because I had it in my headphones, and it was a very solo experience going across the outback and nearly dying a few times for various reasons. It's in the book. But it was all, there was a soundtrack, and I'd love to use those songs, and obviously legally I can't. And here was Silverchair, Straight Line, I think it's called. And I wanted to use that, but I couldn't. The first goes I had it, I couldn't quite capture the right mood, and then I kind of came up with this great progressive house riff, and I really liked it, and it worked, and it captures the mood, so it'll do. Yeah, and then, you know, it's kind of changed. I kind of like it. It worked. You know, you're back on, then you're actually on the train. Very poor quality, and I'm taking these from, like, that's an original photo from when I was on the Garn and travelling north. So I kind of used original photos to inform the shots. Character consistency was impossible at this stage in January. It's better now, but it's still a fight. But also, what I actually find hard is deciding on characters. So I have to go quite a way through the journey. I'm probably 5 to 10 minutes in before I'm actually deciding on whether I like a character or not and what they want it to look like, which is kind of frustrating because then I'd have to go back through and fix all of it, but so be it. Yeah, and then the narration over here with the music undertow took a lot of mucking about with the EQs to figure out how to get that sitting right, and I'm still not sure I've got it. Also, I'm using vibe voice, I'm not actually narrating. I need to do a better recording because it's slightly boxy because it's recorded in a room and you capture all the reverb and you can really hear that. As a comparison, I was using the beach intro because there's a lot of heavy EDM music in that with him narrating, and it just sits really well. Obviously they're professionals, they know what they're doing making that, but like, I use that as a guide and to work out how to set the EQs and stuff, and you really have to cut out a hole for the EQ, and yeah, it's very sharp as well, and then you have to automate it back in at the right moment and make it work. It's quite challenging. And what's interesting here is, and I need to look at how I did it because the cuts don't show, and I wasn't trying to do that. I was actually using last frame, and when I started swapping this guy out, the cuts were really jarring, and it's the same later in the lip sync where the cuts are quite jarring, but here it was just, well, it's really annoying. VLC Media cannot seem to play without making these scrabbledy things on Windows. But yeah, there's a change coming up here. Yeah, you see it, but it's not jumpy. Yeah, narrating under all this and blah blah blah. You know what's going on here, and then this was the hardest bit, I think, because I'm using pictures from my life, and I'm trying to kind of condense my experience up to leaving England into Australia, without it being a travel documentary journal, you know, just awful, and it's really hard. And these are taken from photos but then changed, and I might change them more because it just feels really egocentric and I'm not able to escape it, and I'm not quite sure why. I think it's just too close. You're too close to it when it's your own story, so there's problems with that, and I'll come back to it. And this kind of trying to make it so it feels like a reverie, a recollection, and then blows up at the end when I left England, which is pretty much exactly how it felt. Blow your life up. And yeah, but you know, you reach a certain age, you do shit like that. There it goes. But anyway, and then the other problem is this, you'll notice I had to reverse back out of there, so it's all going backwards, and then in a minute it's going forwards. And you know, when you're mucking about with stuff, you suddenly realise, oh, if I switch that around, suddenly everything's going backwards, and I hadn't realised that. I mean, I had realised it, but it was quite a fight to try to tell it. But that was LTX2. 2.3 might be better. I haven't had to test it yet. And then we're on to the lip sync scenes, and this woman I met on the train, Daniela, and this didn't really happen, but I'm trying to condense, not like this, but I'm trying to condense a bunch of information in, and I'm not sure it works fully. I'll have to revisit it later once I've got to change this guy out, and he changes anyway here once I switch over. And this was the moment, and this is the guy I want to use here. So I was 5 minutes in before I found the guy I think fits right, and his kind of persona with it fits right. And yeah, I ran all this through in one go, but it started having problems, so I had to do it in 10-second segments, and you can see the jump. So there's stuff that you have to find ways to strategically work around. But anyway, that's nearly 10 minutes of chit chat from me. I think I'll leave it there. I don't think there's anything else in particular to talk about with this particular one. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. It was a couple of weeks in January, I guess, of work, a bit more than 2 weeks work, and a hell of a lot needs to happen to it to get less distracting as a story. But that'll do.